This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 472 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products and Total Saddle Fit. Tonight we are talking about junior riders with a great coach of junior riders, Angela Ariotti. We also talk with Aaron Woodall, Director of Activities and Events for the U.S. Pony Club. And we'll finish going through first level test 3 for the Total Saddle Fit tip of the week.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. Hi, Reese.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm getting a little tired.
Yeah, I think every trainer in U.S. and Canada and around the world, this is our busy time. This is very busy. Yep, this is full steam ahead. I feel you too. We have a big.
All right, we're having fun, right?
We're having fun. Yeah, we're working. This is the time we're working. So bring your trainer an extra coffee every once in a while this time of year, because
caffeine is a very much appreciated.
We needed it. We need it. Yeah, we have a big show this weekend here in Lexington, and all my event horses are going, and that is something I teach a lot of event horses. So. I literally just get to stand and warm up tomorrow at the horse show, and they just keep coming. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be that'll be a lot of fun. So all my kind of bigger horses go tomorrow, so that'll be fun to see them. So we were doing our last minute prep going on, and but actually the U.S. team is at Rotterdam. I think they're literally riding right now. I don't know about the Canadian team.
I think they're asleep right now.
Oh yeah, maybe they're asleep. Yeah, okay, maybe they're asleep right now. But we'll get those results from Rotterdam from next week. And I did see, Phil, this past week Walter Zettel passed away. And any of you who knew Walter Zettel, he was very instrumental in the U.S.
Influential in the U.S. and Canada.
Canada.
Was training about 2 hours away from where I live, so. We know a lot about Walter Zettel here in this area, and I think I saw a lot of descriptions. Just a really compassionate trainer and rider, and brought positive training to dressage horses and people, and it's very sad. I think he'll be greatly, greatly missed by a lot of people.
Yeah, so just wanted to mention that. And but we have a great show. We have a junior theme going on, and we're going to hear from our first guest, Angela Ariotti. And I was actually at her barn last night working with a bunch of the kids to get ready for the weekend, their Pony Club rally. So I hope you enjoy our discussion with Angela and how she starts all her little ones. I think you'll enjoy it. Well, tonight I am honored to have a good friend of mine and also someone I respect very much. Her name is Angela Ariotti. She's president of Ariotti Equestrian Services. She's a Pony Club A and a BHS, British Horse Society instructor, and I think one of the best people that starts kiddos that I've ever seen. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Reese. Thanks, Philip.
Well, we appreciate it. You're so happy to have you tonight because we're doing a whole kiddo show, and I wanted you to come on because you really, it's very hard now in this day and age to find someone that really, you do all levels and stages in riders, but you have a wonderful program to develop youngsters. So, tell us a little bit about how you got started and go from there.
Oh, okay. Well, I got started. I was working for an instructor in California, Jenny Bryant of Equitest. She's still in business. And I wanted to, they said that you're probably not going to make it as a great rider. They
told you that?
Yeah, they told me that.
Oh, okay.
I'm short, Philip. So,
okay. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love to teach, and I just really took to teaching, and she gave me the opportunity and then told me that there wasn't a program in the United States at the time, but the British Horse Society was. I grew up in Pony Club, was introduced to Pony Club, and Pony Club is really what shaped me. And I think it shaped me because of the discipline and the standards. I'm a little bit of an abstract person, so it really kind of guided me right into some type of discipline. So I strongly believe in Pony Club. And then that takes you, if you know about Europe, that takes you right into the British Horse Society standards. So I have always taught from those standards. So that's how I got started, just teaching for her, and then moved on from there, started her beginner program.
So Angela, tell us, it's really hard, as people are looking for an instructor for their youngster. And as you know, I ask Angela questions about my youngster, not my sister's daughter, my niece. I'm like, what are some things? It's hard to find a program to get these guys started. So how do you find it? What are you looking for when you're looking for that type of program?
Well, first of all, when you go to a kid's barn, it does not mean that it's sloppy or messy or anything like that. That they have high standards of horsemanship. Very important. I go to kids' barns everywhere, and it's kind of understood. Well, it's a kids' barn, so people leave their stuff around. No. My kids don't do that. So
that's true. Her barn is spick and span, my friends.
It's very important that we put that in place, the horsemanship, right from the beginning. So I really would stress that if you go visit the barn, that they are talking about your kid learning how to brush the horse, your kid learning how to saddle the horse, and that there are safety measures in place. Meaning that there's horses of various sizes and horses of various levels. And that the instructor has some sort of certification. It doesn't need to necessarily be, ICP, ISP, or ICP program, which is the eventing program, or the dressage program necessarily, but a person who's brought up in Pony Club or is a teacher and knows those standards, I think is very important.
Yeah, and it's
so
very.
What about? I was just going to ask about safety, as in first aid training, and the other aspects of sport safety that maybe would be talked about in other sports as well.
Yes. So the USEF now has a safety sport initiative, as well as safety. Like if you're a Pony Club instructor, you have to have your Red Cross certification. You have to have your concussion certification, and all those certifications are also used for like coaching football. My husband's a coach of football, and he has to take the same concussion test that I have to take for Pony Club. So that would be something you would need to ask the instructor. It's not something you would see. And if they hesitate or waver, then they don't know what you're talking about. It's not, that's the thing, is that a lot of barns I've seen are not very regulated on that part, unless they have Pony Club or even 4-H. But 4-H, even here in some areas, you don't have to take the concussion test. You don't have to take your Red Cross test. So, it can get pretty vague.
Right. So it's good to be asking these questions.
Yes, asking those questions. And you can also tell, if you walk through a barn and you see fire hydrants and you see on their whiteboard, there, especially with kids, there should be, this is the number to the police and this is how you get here. Mm-hmm. This is the number to the fire station and this is how you get here.
Which should be in every really barn important. Too. Actually, if you really talk about it, it should be in every barn. The address.
Oh, absolutely.
I've
been in the barn. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
But even more with children.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. A mother who knows nothing about horses, they're just walking through the barn. These are something that they could spot easily.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
For sure.
Right. So beyond the so we got the safety thing. That's all good. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy of coaching and of beginning a rider through, to put through the paces.
I noticed a long time ago that when I started teaching more advanced riders, that things were skipped over on their position very quickly. We're going to teach them theory. We're going to teach them about tempo. We're going to teach them about relaxation. But, we're kind of, we don't really want to go down the path of that. The hip isn't over the heel. I mean,
Yeah.
They're sitting in a chair position, but do we really want to address that? They've been riding for 12 years.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So then when you do get them on a full training basis, then you're retraining something that never needed to be retrained.
Mm-hmm.
If you have if you have the instructor that goes safety, fun, position, then you're not going to have to, when I present my kid to you, Philip, you're not going to have to tell her too many strong position things that are obvious, like your leg under your hip. I mean, my 4-year-old knows where her leg goes.
Right.
And I think it's really important to train the mind and the body as they're growing. Number one, they are very receptive and they're in an absorbing place in their life. And so why not train those muscles now?
Do it when they're flexible,
body.
right? And they can do it more easily,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Not when they're old like me.
Yeah, exactly. And Angela, you have a good way of putting it, because, I've had the pleasure now. Angela and I have been working together for what do we think 8 years or something? A while.
Yeah.
And now the kids are all like, I've gone through a stage of kids and some of them like going to college now, which is crazy. But one of the things Angela says is as they grow, I go maybe, I teach Angela a little more often, but the group I teach about 4 times a year. So I see these guys and, I won't see them for, 6 months. And I come back, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're the foot taller. And Angela goes, yeah, I haven't trained that foot yet. And so I think you have a really great way of saying that. Like, I trained this part, but now they grew another 4 inches overnight and we have to train this part. And
that happens a lot in the teenage years, they find their balance, they find their balance when they're 4 or 5 or 6, 5 to 8. They really, because their body subconsciously wants to be balanced. So they find it, and then they can start having fun. We can take them on the fox hunt. We can take them, on little jumping things. We can do hill work. We can do musical curves. We can do all sorts of fun things. And then they grow. And then they grow and they don't know what's wrong. They just know that it's not right, that something's not right. It's not working like it used to work. And they get really mad and frustrated. And it's probably the horse, So, it's definitely probably the horse.
It's always the horse.
It's always the horse, right? No, it's not.
Always the horse. But then I say, wait a second. You are the one who changed. Your horse didn't grow 5 feet more. You did. So now you feel different to him.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I go back to the position statement, which they hate because, ears, hips, heels. Is that in line? And they hate it because they think that's what you do when you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And this is the first time of discovering that this sport is always revolving. You're always evolving, right? Always, always, always evolving.
Yes.
Because we're changing and they're changing. We have kind of a morbid thing in our barn. We talk about death a little more than maybe most barns.
Okay.
But, okay, I know it's kind of weird, but we're like, look, once you're born and as you're evolving and once you get to your height, at that point you're dying. Your cells are dying. So you've got to keep them supple and keep them working in order so they don't die fast. This is what we say.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Crazy.
It makes sense,
if you
right?
think about it too, it helps them too because, either they're riding on older horses or they're either riding on older horses that are stiff and they start learning about hollow and stiff side and, why is my horse one day good and the next day not? And then they start understanding about suppleness because it's, they've never experienced it in their own bodies.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense. Right. I get it as I get older, for sure.
Does Philip get it?
Yeah, he does. He does.
I know all about
I've
it.
known him.
Yeah.
I've known him long enough now. We're both feeling this stiffness situation. So Angela, tell us, how do you? I mean, one of the things that I love about your barn, I was there last night and, I came in and there was a camp going on and there were the kids that that were on my list. And then there was a group that was riding. I mean, I guess there's a real pipeline, but, the younger kids are learning from the older kids and the older kids are helping with the camp. And how do you do all of that?
Well, I think some of it is just that right from the beginning, we learn to respect our horses. I mean, we call them rules, but we have a list of rules per se. And one of the biggest rules that we emphasize is compassion for everything living. And so they start having fun with each other because they have no choice. I guess it's the best.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they have no choice. I jokingly say the first day of camp, we're going to go over these rules, which they have a sheet that goes to them before they come to camp. So let's say, this is your first introduction. Before you come to a first lesson or a camp, you get a sheet and it has a list of rules on it. And at the bottom, the mom and the child need to sign it. And I don't care if it's a scribble. I need to see that the parent has sat down and read these rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And on the rules, it says these rules are for the safety of you, your child, and the horse. We talk a lot about that horses are preyed upon animals. So they learn right away what that means. And we talk about some animals are predators and some animals are prey. And that that's why it's important that we adapt and are compassionate from the world that they come from. I hope you guys can hear me. We're getting a Kentucky storm.
Oh,
yeah.
No, yeah, it's good. We can still hear you. So, what are the rules around then, when the kids get a bit older about, like Reset, helping with the camp and how do you integrate that into your program?
Okay, so there's no rules per se on that. However, because they had so much fun at camp, then they want to do that with the other kids. Now, I do have a working student program, which is a small working student program. It's kind of an elite program, if you would, because I'm not big on having everybody. And then there are kids that are like, we want to come for camp and hang out and help the campers. They can't just come to the barn and hang out, like sit there.
Right.
And
I see that a lot in
gossip.
younger people's barns where people are just hanging around and
no.
A little disorganized. Yeah.
No, there's none of that. If you're there, you're doing something.
Yeah. It's true.
Because what is the saying? Idle hands is something.
Yeah, the devil's playground.
Yes.
The devil's playground, right? And we do not do that. And that's important to me. Now I don't force it though. I don't say, this is really important. You have to volunteer and put it in a boarding thing. Our Pony Cub Center, if you're a member of Pony Cub, you have to give to the center 8 hours of volunteer work. But there's a lot of times I have kids that I'm like, look, we don't have a big enough camp. I can't tip you guys all because I usually tip them. But I can't tip all you guys. There's not enough money in the pot, And they're like, no, Angela, we want to come. We'll do this day. We'll do that day. I'm like, okay. If they don't show up because whatever, life and their mom forgot to drive them or whatever, I don't bash them or none of that. It's just like, thank you for coming. And then usually at the end of summer, I try to take them together to something like snowballs for an hour or ice cream or swimming or
a fun
something.
thing.
Just make them, or Lee makes some dinner. It's my husband.
He's a great cook. We love when Lee makes us dinner. Yeah. And it's true. You really do an amazing job of, kind of everybody works together. And I think that comes from you. But there's a very clear structure. And I think that's important. And you said that early on, there's a very clear structure in how you do things.
I think it's important that when we do camps and when we do the initial lessons, that we don't have big groups. You never see my camps at 20 or 25. I mean, that would be great from an economical standpoint.
Yeah.
but in reality, it doesn't produce the quality. It's just running. It's just a mill. And number one, it's very hard mentally, I think, actually more on the horses than physically. And I don't, it just doesn't pay off like in good things. It doesn't give me quality riders. It doesn't have the riders come back, and it breaks down horses quicker. So that's why we try to keep it to 8 to 10. And that makes it a lot more intimate. And you can address problems with, you can address some more personal problems, get them on the lunge line if you need to, that sort of thing.
So Angela, I have a bit of a tough question now. I think this is something that we all struggle with as coaches. And, how do you keep everything so structured and teaching great theory and teaching great positional things and keep it fun for the kids so they stay interested and they want to engage in these things that you're trying to teach them?
I am very lucky because I'm a very creative person. So the kids would tell you, like, I'll give you an example. Today they were saying something about crafts, or they didn't like this. I go, well, give me your water bottle. And then I whip up and I make a flower out of a water bottle. And once they see me change something or do something creative, then they start getting creative.
Right.
So like with position, okay, I have a test in my mind. Okay. So I'm going to show you the correct position. I'm going to show you how to start, stop, and steer. I'm going to then put you on the lunge line and have you stand over your foot, find that balance. You're not going to ride around the ring until you ride 3 times around, moving your hands from your head, your hips, and your head, hips, and shoulder, right? So with like my 4-year-old, we pretend. They love to pretend. So I say, put your arms out and imagine you have birds at the end of your arms. And then they lift their arms up straight over their heads to let their birds fly. So it's weird. Like, okay, you get that? Mm-hmm. Then this is an old game, Philip. You might have remembered this. Did you ever hear of the rock game?
No, I never did the rock game.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever did any games.
Are you guys dressage riders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we didn't do like fun. That's the problem.
You don't like rocks in your arena, right?
No.
So before all the fancy footing, the rocks used to come up through the sand.
Yeah.
And so we'd play the rock game, which is where they would pick up the rocks. They would go hide the rocks from their friend, and their friend was standing in a circle, with their eyes closed, and then we have them go walk to the rail to pick up the rocks and bring it back to the circle. Now we have all the rocks in one spot, and they learned how to steer and position their pony next to the rail. So, and you can take that further where you can position them so you have to face the rock and then move your horse's haunch in a turn on the forehand.
Okay.
See, this is why Phil and I do not teach little kids.
You see how that works?
We're not creative
for
enough.
sure.
These are great ideas.
Great ideas.
See, and so there we've used the turn on the forehand. We talk a lot about why these this will be funny. We talk a lot about that we wrote one of the uses of our horses was in war. So how would you, approaching someone, move your horse away from that person so you did not get hit by the sword?
Right.
Leg yield.
How would you do? Right, exactly.
Yay!
Leg yield. Good job, right? Okay.
Yes.
So now it's not a boring leg yield from
this is awesome.
M to K.
Yeah.
Now it's I'm going to approach my friend, so they're heading at each other, and which way are you going to leg yield? And they'll hold noodles, or they'll hold a rope, or they'll hold a spoon, or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I know, yeah.
See, everybody,
Yeah,
there are creative
And
people.
make it
just
fun.
not
You
Phil
just have
and
to be
I.
smarter than me.
Smarter than us,
you have
for
to.
sure.
You have to really think about. Well, and that's kind of again putting in the history of equestrian, right? Of the horse.
Yeah. And
So now we've
dressage
established
battling.
the history.
Yeah.
So we've identified the history. We've identified the animal part. That it's preyed upon animal, and we take the preyed upon animal to a place where, okay, they socialize, they're social animals.
Yeah.
And then we take it to, are you going to be the lead horse or not the lead horse? And when is your horse going to feel safe? With food or with a lead horse? With lead horse.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. See, we need to be more creative. We should,
No, you know what we're going to do. We're just
and then obviously,
using
using Cavaletti is huge because they think they're jumping.
That makes sense.
But
don't tell them.
We use Cavaletti a lot, and then Reese's scene, which this came from David O'Connor, which who knows where it came from before. But we've all used cones, but they have those little like dots that you get from the soccer camp, from soccer field.
Awesome.
So one of the things I started doing with the dots is dot to dot. So I'll say, what's your favorite number, or what's your favorite letter, or animal, or whatever. I try not to say animal because the young ones will make me draw something with a dot that I can't. But make it draw it with the dots, and then they have to play dot to dot.
Okay.
Oh, we're not
like an 8 is your figure 8, so that's easy. But I mean, even if they did a 2, or even if they did like a 4 is hard.
Oh, yeah, 4 is really hard.
4 is really hard. You got to go all the way up. You got to reverse. You got to do a turn on the haunch twice.
Yeah.
Did you visualize that?
Great stuff.
Actually, let's be real. All of us could work on the number 4 with dots. Let's be real.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Maybe I should go home and work on those.
This is really good. I think that's going to be our next lesson. Is how do we do that?
Yeah. We'll do that 4 thing. Yeah, but you got start, stop, halt, rein back, turn on the haunch left, and turn on the haunch right.
All fun. Angela,
fun.
This is why Angela's on the show. This is because she thinks of these things.
We don't have enough time today, but we need to bring her back, and we got to get all these ideas out of your head and record it.
We're going to get you some more ideas off of you. This is fantastic. But now you can see the type of person that needs to be teaching your kiddos, not Philip and I, until they're older. Now, I have seen Angela's. I have worked with now a group that for about 8 years, and now they're all graduating, and Angela has a new group coming. But, it's just so fun to see them develop and see how they've developed over time. So, Angela, thank you so much for your time tonight.
You're
There's
welcome.
actually a big Pony Club rally today. I snagged her from. Yep. She took a big group down. But Angela, if our listeners have any more questions or need some ideas for their kids, how do they find you online?
They can go to ariadihorse.com, or they can find me on Facebook. We have 2 Facebook pages. One is Ariadne Equestrian Services, and the other is the Ariadne Pony Club Center. And they can find me either way, right there.
Awesome. Angela, thanks so much. And we will definitely have you back on with some more ideas. These are fantastic.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
Well, Angela is just, you can see her creativity and her joy for teaching little ones.
It's kind of inspiring, right?
Yes.
It's kind of, at the end of that, I'm like, maybe I should, pick up a junior here or there, but then, but it's not my style. You can probably, everybody already knows that.
Yeah, so we know that. Well, I will be honest.
Great junior teachers and
she's great. And she broke my fear. I used to be scared of juniors because I was like, what am I going to teach them? But I'm lucky because I do go to her barn and they know. So I don't have too much of a fear of teaching juniors anymore, which is fun. So that was awesome. But right after this commercial break, we're going to hear from Erin Woodall, and she's from the United States Pony Club.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Are you worried about digestive disorders such as colic, diarrhea, and ulcers making your horse sick? Try adding Nalox Advanced to your horse's diet. The ingredients in Nalox Advanced support a healthy stomach, robust microflora populations, and normal gut function, so digestive disorders become a thing of the past. Nalox Advanced is recommended for horses of all ages to maintain a healthy gut and reduce the risk of ulcers, diarrhea, and colic. Why take chances with your horse's well-being? Start your horse on Nalox Advanced today.
Well, tonight for our junior show, I'm so excited to have Erin Woodall. She is the Director of Activities and Events for the Pony Club. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thanks for having me, you all. It's a great time.
We are very excited because, again, we're kind of talking about, how do you get your kid involved in dressage or, just involved in general. And we just had a great interview from Angela Ariotti from one of the Pony Club centers here in Kentucky. So, Erin, tell us a little bit about what you do for the Pony Club and just in general, a little bit about the Pony Club.
Okay, so what I do for Pony Club is I actually help organize several of our large events and several of our smaller events. So I help organize championships and our annual convention and equine symposium that includes a lot of educational workshops. And we actually have pony paddock for our younger members and then different sessions for the 14 to 17-year-olds. But I also help organize our international exchanges. We actually have a team of 5 members between the ages of 13 and 15 going to Great Britain to compete in international mounted games this year. And then we are hosting a tetrathlon exchange where we're hosting members from Canada, Great Britain, Australia, and Ireland this summer in July when we are at Tryon for Championships East.
Wow. How cool.
So tell me how it gets organized in doing all of these big things while Pony Club is still also involved on a very small grassroots scale. How does that all of this get handled?
So Pony Club is configured. We have the overall national organization, which is where I work. It's based at the horse park. But then we have about 500 individual clubs across the entire U.S. We actually even have clubs in St. Croix, Alaska, Hawaii. You wouldn't really expect to have a whole lot of horses in Hawaii. But each of those clubs are grouped together. They are administered by local volunteers. 95% of what happens within Pony Club is all volunteer driven. And then the clubs are loosely gathered into regions, and then the regions form the national organization. So currently, actually, this week, I happen to be involved with helping the Mid-South region, which is hosting their mega rally at the Kentucky Horse Park. And so far, yesterday, we did show jumping rally, where we had, I think, about 40 competitors come and do 3 show jumping rounds. We had everything from probably 8-year-olds upwards. Pony Club encompasses all ages now. And then we did D1, which is our little bitty teeny tiny kids today. And then we had the D2, D3 rally. And so those kids actually do dressage and stadium, and they will be doing cross country tomorrow morning. So the clubs and regions have their local competitions, and then as the kids progress through, they then go on to championships and some of the larger national or international competitions.
Wow. So this is just a basic question, but how would you go about finding a pony club in your area?
So we have a great resource on our website, and if you go to ponyclub.org or uspc.org, and on the left-hand side, under the drop-down bar, there is About, and then there is Find a Club and Center. And you can key in your city, your state, your zip code, and it will pull up for you, similar to a Google map. It'll pull up for you the closest pony club or riding center. And if there's not a pony club or riding center close to you, we always are willing to open up new clubs if someone is a horse person who's interested in the curriculum. We have a lot of educational materials that we provide to members and leaders. I was going
to ask you, Erin. That's a really good question, because the Pony Club Center, is that a relatively new program?
The Pony Club Riding Center is, I think, about 15 years old, and we actually absconded the idea from Great Britain. They started it. And so traditional Pony Club has been that you had to have your own horse or pony to participate, or you had to have access to your own horse or pony. And we know that horse ownership, especially in the United States, has changed. And so more people are taking lessons at riding facilities and boarding facilities and doing lessons in that fashion. So the riding center is that model where people may not own their own pony, but they take lessons and have access to it and still can compete in pony club programs and work through the certification process, which is similar to Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, where they achieve different levels showing their skills.
Fantastic. Well, I love it, Erin. Well, thank you so much for coming on and kind of talking to us a little bit about Pony Club. If people had some questions for you, how would they find you online?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is emailing activities@ponyclub.org. And, you know, I can send them in the correct direction wherever that may be.
I love it. Well, I think there's a lot of questions out there and trying to figure out, you know, where your kid goes and how you place them. And I even know in the Lexington area here, or this sort of central Kentucky, we have multiple clubs. So, you know, I wouldn't know necessarily as a parent coming in where to go. So I love it. Well, Erin, thank you so much. And it's such a great resource we have in the United States. And I think people really should use it because it's a great program. So thank you so much for coming on.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, Phil, we're going to finish our first level test 3 for our Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, but we've got some cool stuff. We actually had a listener question ask us about this. So tell us, Phil, how does the shoulder relief girth improve saddle fit?
Well, basically, I mean, we need to maybe describe the shape of this girth. It has a little bit more of a U shape where the girth goes so that it puts pressure more towards the front of the horse, on the horse's chest. And what it does, it U-shapes back from that point to where you would attach it to the saddle. What it does is going to keep the girth pressure or the girth from sitting forward on the horse's elbow, but still applying girth pressure to the correct place on the horse, so that it's not back on his belly and making the horse uncomfortable. So I think that, you know, that wonderful design is what gives its fit, and it does two things. So it holds the horse's saddle that you're riding in the correct place, and it also allows for the horse to move without knocking the girth. In traditional straight girths, you'll find that it'll rub maybe sometimes on the elbow, or it'll prevent the horse from giving you that full range of motion, you know, from the leg and from the shoulder. So that's why it's called the shoulder relief girth. But I think the best part of this design is not the shoulder freedom, but actually the saddle fits better and stays where it should. That probably happens because, you know, it's not pushing, you know, the horse is not pushing the girth back, and then therefore the saddle falling back. It stays up where you want it to, so that you're going to be in good balance. The saddle, has to be in the right place. That's all the design of the saddle is, like it's meant to be in the right place. So you're riding in the right place on the horse's back, and therefore the horse has the freedom to move and do all the great things that you're going to be able to achieve. So yeah, I'm not sure we've ever really gone through the discussion about the shape and the fit of that. So we wanted to bring that to our listeners today, and kind of the theory on how it's designed and how it works.
Right. And you can always find more information on TotalSaddleFit.com. And Justin at TotalSaddleFit.com is great. And he can go more in depth on the whole shape and design. He's very cool. He's been on the show lots of times, and he does a great job. So we hope that helps. Well, Phil, so for our trainer tip of the week, last week we're on this series. We're going through the third test of every level because it's qualifying season now. And so we were working first level test 3. So we've already gone through the trot and the walk work. And so we cut because these segments kind of get long once you and I get it going.
We split them in half.
Yeah, we split them in half. They're too long.
We talk too much, yeah.
We do. We talk a little too much, and we hope you guys are okay with that. But so first level test 3, we've already done the walk, which is really important. And then, so we're on, if you're following along on the test, we're on movement 11, which is H working trot, C working canter right lead. And I think this is actually, it's actually a rapid fire transition. That's what we call it when we start doing, because the movement 12 is C circle right 15 meters. So it's the first time you're going to be asked to do things pretty quickly, and it rides really quickly. So it's the first time it's 2-6 movements, upward transition in rapid succession. So I think a lot of people get nervous by the fact that all those are happening. So I think it's really important to think of them kind of as separate entities. That's what I found with my students, is if I read that whole passage, they go, oh my gosh, that's so much to think about. So I say, okay, first get a nice quality trot transition. Then you have 10 meters or a little bit more by the time you make it through the turn, 16 meters actually. But so you have a little bit of time to get ready for your canter transition. And then as you do your canter transition, you need to be positioned for the circle, but you can pick up the canter and get ready to circle. You have a stride or two to do that. So that's what I do. Phil, what do you do?
I really emphasize and talk about doing things rather early than, I always say better early than late.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the free walk a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That horse has to be marching in the free walk. You can't go from a lazy, slow poke kind of free walk and be able to do this movement. So, okay, let's get your free walk going. All right. Then pick up the reins a little bit early. Otherwise, you're going to be a little bit late in your transition to trot. So you should be picking up the reins as you approach the letter
Approaching.
S, not after, not at, before. So that S is your medium walk. It says it, but people hardly are organized by the time the letter comes around at S. So let's make sure that's going to happen. All right. So S to H, you got a really, forward pace going, really thinking about energy, because before H, I want to be trotting. So a stride before, I'm not talking about like 10 meters before or whatever, but just kind of think, okay, I want to make that transition early. Now I've got a little extra time. I'm going to trot through the corner with good energy, right? Again, if you pick up this slow poke trot, you're not going to get the canter. So everything's about setting the tone of really good energy, really forward idea,
Forward is a state of mind is really important.
Yes, good,
right? Because you'll get caught if you don't. It's not.
Very good. So you got yourself a good working trot going, lots of energy, and then you go ahead and pick up canter. And again, like I always say, better early than late. Like, don't wait around, because at C, you got to be turning on that 15-meter circle. And so you've got to have the horse, if you're really good and really smart, you're going to have that horse positioned a little bit in a bit of a shoulder 4 or, a shoulder in position, so that you can pick up the canter. You've got your bend established, and you've got your shoulder already established a little bit off the track. I don't think there's a judge in the world that's going to mind a little bit of correct positioning to make the whole thing a little easier. If your horse is a little bit too straight or a little bit looking at the judge, you're not prepared and you're not going to be able to get this turn.
And that's shoulder 4, basically. That's what you're describing, is a little bit of a shoulder 4 position.
Shoulder 4. So so the shoulders are a little bit off the track, ready to turn as you're picking up the canter, kind of all in one thing together. And, like we always say, this is going to be successful if you practice it. And if you practice
this is train this.
You practiced it with these details in mind, that not just kind of doing it. If it's not working, you got to figure out, okay, I need to come back. I need to think this through. Maybe I need to go home and draw it out on a piece of paper. What are the things I can do positioning wise for the horse to allow this to happen a lot easier?
I love it. So then we go into the lengthen, after we've done our 15-meter circle, M to P, lengthen, stride, and canter, P, working canter. What's interesting about this is, I'd have to look back again, but it's a separate score. Your transition is a separate score. So it's expensive if you blow past P and your horse doesn't come back. And I agree with you, Phil. This is also a movement you should be training all the time. Obviously, the judge is really looking at straightness in this lengthen. So you have to make sure that the horse is straight, that the horse isn't running away with you, but there needs to be intent that the horse is going forward. I think that's really important. I think people will say, oh, I got conservative and I really thought they were going. And I'll say, no, they really weren't. You really need to go
It's good
forward.
to have this videotaped,
Yes.
Even if you don't
You're like,
have eyes
oh.
on the ground all the time, but then, videotape it. You got to realize, sometimes what you think is happening is not happening. So
Yeah. If you're going to do anything, overdo this movement a little. Be a little dramatic
take
here.
a risk. Yeah, take a little
Go
risk.
forward. The judge wants to see you go forward, not sort of canter gently down the long side. That's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah,
So,
and the classic thing for the horses to do, and this is almost all of them, is to, instead of going forward, is to just take their hind legs and put them a little bit to the inside of the track. That's just how.
And the judge is right behind you.
Put together. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to be there.
You
So
end
the
up
shoulder
with,
four.
not enough canter, and then the horse is a little bit in this travers position by the time you get to P, and then you ask the horse to come back. And if the horse is in travers and you ask him to come back, he will trot. She will
do a
trot.
trot or some sort of random lead change or some sort of situation.
You will have problems. So when you're going forward, it's go forward, take a risk, but stay straight.
Yeah.
Keep that hind leg on the outside of the wall. So I actually tell the riders a little bit at this level, it's okay to take the horse a little bit away from the wall so that there's room on the track for his hind legs, because everybody likes to kind of hang on the wall a little bit. But if you think about the horse's structure, most of them are built that the shoulders are a little more narrow than the hind legs. So if your shoulders are against the wall, if his outside shoulders against the wall, there's not room for the hind legs as well, right?
Yeah, the haunch is coming in.
Yeah.
And also that shoulder four, you can start to see a theme here.
Shoulder four is a good idea. I always, in my mediums, drive from my inside leg a little more than my outside leg. I put that pressure, a little kick on the inside leg. So I always think about my inside leg being more of the go leg and the outside leg being the balance leg, just like your reins, right?
Yeah.
Your outside rein will balance the horse. Your inside rein is only responsible for bending and then relieving pressure and just giving, right? So
I love it. Good. I like that. So then you go, this is a little bit of counter canter. KXH, one loop, maintaining the right lead. This is a double score, so this is important because it's expensive. So it's the first time you see a little counter canter, huh, Phil?
Yeah, this is a movement that you see ridden differently depending on the riders. There's lots of interpretations of this movement.
Yes.
The easiest way to do this and to be able to maintain your lead is to don't ride right to X. Ride to the center line a little bit before X so that you have maybe 3 strides on the center line straight, and then get yourself back towards the wall. If you ride it like a V, because it's direct, like the direction is like a V, right?
It's a loop. It's a loop.
It's a loop. Yeah, ride it as a loop. So we've already ridden loops in training level.
Yep, it's the same. It's the same
pattern.
It's the same pattern. So the horses sort of know it. But I find this is also the same in preliminary test B in the U.S. because I happen to be working that test because I have a lot of people going to the event this weekend. It's the same movement. So one of the things you have to be careful, I found, is that you need to look at the marker that you're going to. So I think people get their head down and start looking at X. And in this case, you really need to be looking toward H, which is the end of the line. Because I think people look down or they look at X and then they try to go back to the wall. And especially the event horses that at that level, they do know a little bit about a flying change. That can sometimes happen. So you need to keep your position, inside leg at the girth, outside leg behind the girth, and have your hips and your eyes guide the horse a little bit. So there's not a kind of a quick back to the wall. Because that's where I typically find.
That quick turn is where you're going to get all of your problems, whether you're going to trot or do a flying change or whatever. So make it a smooth loop and don't do any dramatic bending.
No.
So when you're coming away from the wall, you should not have your horse's head cranked way to the side. And when you're going back to the wall, you should not try and turn the horse's head and neck back towards the wall. It's the head and neck and shoulders should all stay sort of in the same alignment.
Agreed.
So a little bit of canter straightness is important here as well. So we don't want to see the horses. So when we talked about the trot loop, we do a little bit more of dramatic bend changes. In canter, you have to maintain the lead. And one way to really screw your horse up is by, having his head way right and then way left.
Yeah, that won't work.
Keep it soft, in the middle of the shoulder. The head should stay in canter in the middle of the shoulders. Any dramatic pull on the rein or you have to do this movement from your legs and your hips and your seat. When you do that, the horse can maintain his balance. When you don't do that,
it's not going to work.
You have problems. Yeah.
Yes.
This is the first sort of question where you're saying, can the rider direct the horse away from the wall and then back to the wall with legs and seat and hips? That's what this question is really asking.
Yeah.
So if you really work on that, then you'll be able to do it. And again, as always, we return to the base of the pyramid, which is rhythm. And so the last thing I see, which can be quite dramatic, is changes in the horse's size of stride and rhythm.
Yeah.
And when we get those big changes, then you're going to have mistakes as well.
Yeah.
So you really, get sort of a good energy going in your canter, because if the horse is going to trot, he's going to drop out of canter. And if the horse is going to do a flying change, he's going to probably speed up. So you can prevent both of those things.
That's a good way to say that. I've never thought about it that way, Phil, but that's a really good, actually, you're right. You're so smart. Yeah,
Sometimes.
No, I agree.
Sometimes.
I agree.
I've been working tests these days, Reese.
I hear you, my friend.
I was riding this one a lot a couple of weeks ago. So
this
maintain rhythm, maintain the balance. That's the left-right straightness balance, and ride forward. Don't let them slow poke through the middle here. And no doing a V. A V is not right.
No, a V is not right. It's a loop. It's very specific that they want to loop. It says one loop maintaining the right lead. So we've gone through the loop. Now, I think this becomes important because you have MXK change rein X, change of lead through the trot. So that change of lead through the trot is 3 to 5 steps. But what I find the most here is, number one, you really have to ride your short side because they're coming off the counter canter, and they're doing first level. They're relatively green in the counter canter type situation.
So there'll be a little bit imbalance there, right?
So
and the
use your short side.
Yeah, maybe thrown to the wrong seat bone, or may have tipped forward, or may have, all these things. You need to use your short sides to clean all that stuff up.
Yeah,
so it's the positional things, right? The positional things and the balance things. You need to be. The short sides are not, just to get around. The short sides through all tests, training level through Grand Prix, that's where the real riding occurs. I like to tell people.
Agree.
The movements are easy if the real riding is occurring around the short side or in the in-between pieces. So get yourself gathered up, get your balance back, get ready for the next movement.
Right. And, here's where your inside leg's at the girth. So your inside leg is active there, and your outside leg's going to be slightly behind the girth. And as you go to trot, that's going to change. So what I tell people is 3 to 5 strides is actually a pretty long time.
5 would be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 would be a lot, but you have 3 to 5. That's what you have. But you do have time to get yourself centered, get your horse into a nice balanced trot, into a nice balanced canter after a half vault or two. So take your time. And as you go through first level and training level, you go from in training level test 3 trotting at X, and then you don't canter for a while. And then in first level, in the beginning first level test, you trot at X, and then you will canter at the corner marker. So you, at this point, should be relatively set up to be able to do that change of lead through the trot. So in the sense of your horse should be pretty balanced and understand. But again, this is one of those movements that you need to practice. This is important to practice this one.
Yeah, the tip I use and I tell people is, if you're coming in on which lead, on the right lead, coming in on the right lead, then when you trot, you will be slightly, right?
Slightly.
No drama. Leg yielding from your right leg. As you come to trot, then your inside leg switches.
Yeah.
So that left leg will come forward from its position in canter. Its position is a little bit back, So it will come forward, and then it will start applying the pressure. So you will be starting a very slight leg yield from your left leg as you're trotting, and then you can bring the right leg back into its canter position, and the horse will hopefully, you cross your fingers and you train, be cantering on the left lead. But if you pull on both, that's what I hate to see, pull on both reins and then kick on both legs, you have no idea what lead you're going to get, and you have no balance from your inside leg to your outside rein.
Yeah.
So
and
prepare the horse for the new lead. Yeah.
And the other thing is make sure that you've engaged your core muscle, right, as you're coming down, because a lot of people, especially in first level, they're sitting the trot or need to sit the trot, and the horses maybe aren't as through and they're a little bit bouncy, and then you pull back on both reins, and oh boy. So you want to think that you're going to gently sit in the saddle. You're going to do your little yield or your little bit of a leg yield to the new outside rein, and then you're going to go from there. So I like it.
Yeah, you do. This is because you can't do rising trot as you're asking for canter. So there's no rising steps in this change of lead. It's sit, and you're off again in canter, right?
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that core strength, and you haven't worked on your sitting trot because you don't have to in first level.
But second one's coming soon.
yeah, you're preparing to move up, right? You should, be thinking about, what's the next level and starting to train some of that second level stuff. So work on it, right?
Yeah, work on it. Exactly. Work on it. Well, great. So Phil, then we kind of go back, and now we're going to do everything on the other lead. We're going to do it all in the left lead. So we've got the movement 16 is MXK, change rein, X, change of lead through the trot. Then you're going to ride through a very good corner for us. In movement 17, you do a 15-meter circle at A to the left. So again, we talked about it. Everything we talked about to the right will apply to the left.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bonus because you're not asking for the canter as you're turning on the circle.
Yes, it's easier.
So this one's a little easier, hopefully, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you should have a better, like if your shape was not good on the first one, clean it up, ride it well for the second 15-meter circle here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you go into the lengthening, right? So the same thing applies. And I liked how Phil said, think about keeping the shoulders a little bit off the rail so that the haunches have a place to be. I thought that was a great way to think about. So again,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm learning stuff too, Phil.
Positioning. Positioning is so important. It's sort of implicit in first level, but then we get to second level and then they tell you got to do shoulder in. Now here you got to do travers, right? So,
you shouldn't be too far away if you're. Yeah,
you shouldn't be too far away from being able, or at least knowing the tools to be able to place the shoulders a little bit to the inside of the track.
Right, exactly. So then we're going to go for that lengthening. You're going to be really bold. You're going to be really bold in the transition back for that movement 19. Then we go in movement 20 is one HXK, one loop, maintaining the left lead. So the same thing applies. So what we just talked to on the right, really watching that you don't ride a V and that you have the positioning correct, but not over positioned in this particular case. And then
it's tricky. I mean, every horse has a better side with this.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to plan it out. If your horse has a difficult time on one side, then ride the loop kind of with a little bit more shallow loop on one side than the other. When we're developing towards this test, when I begin, teaching a horse about this loop and about counter canter, in the training, I start by just going to the quarter line and back. And then I work my way out towards the center line and back, right? Just through practicing and being really reliable and thinking about these things, rhythm and straightness, balance and all that, you'll get it. It's hard for everybody.
Takes time.
It's a really big jump, from test 2 to test 3. There's some really tough questions here. So,
but that loop is pretty mainstream. I mean, it's in the eventing test and it's in the open technical test.
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a great question.
It's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. And how I think we both, work and start counter canter. So, then we've got some transitions. So you've come off that one loop, and we talked about it to the right. As you come off that loop, you're relatively unbalanced typically. So movement 21 is a working trot. So you've got to come around that corner and be pretty balanced. So you ride an uphill downward transition to trot at A. Then you go F, X, H, change rein, lengthen, stride, and trot, and H, working trot. So Phil, you just showed this, and I showed this all last year with my youngster. Woo! By the time you're getting there, you've asked them some questions.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not done. So don't take a break here.
No.
That core engagement that we talked about, being fit enough to be able to make this is where your core is going to be really important, because even if you're rising 90% of this test, you need to be able to bring him back from canter and really engage your core to get a proper trot.
Yes.
So, sit a few strides, sit through the short side, sit through that corner, and then when you're ready to go on your lengthening, you can rise.
You can pop it.
But that horse needs to be really, really, really balanced towards his hindquarters, or else you're going to get a lengthening that looks something like a run on the forehand and possibly going back to
a
canter.
break. Yeah, a break, because they're getting tired too at this point. So you've got to be careful that you're ready to keep them uphill and ride the transitions. And then, get into the corner, ride a nice short side.
If you can get your horse looking directly, at the corner, you can use that wall a little bit to help to collect, or have the idea of collection for that horse. But if you allow your horses to do 20-meter turns on the short sides at this point in your training, you're not helping him at all, because he's just going to run through that corner. So do a few times, like I like to do a few times here, where I come from canter, I trot, I face him in the corner, and I halt.
Yeah.
Now, depending on your horse, maybe your horse is going to go straight over that little white fence.
Yeah.
Especially the vendors, you point him at something like that.
Yeah,
but that sort of gives you the idea. Maybe you do it at an indoor or whatever, that he must listen to you, or she must listen to you when you ask for that half halt. You got all that energy coming from the canter and all that momentum. You have to control it now. You have to use your core. You have to use your stopping aids, and let the horse respect you. Because if you practice this test enough times, they know that lengthening is coming.
Yeah, and they're going to run in their forehand.
Start to run through your grades.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So use that short side. Use that tight corner. Make it work for you. Don't let it fall. Don't let it ruin your test.
So then you're going to ride a really strong short side, and you're going to be half circle right 10 meters. It is a half circle, not a square turn. There is a difference. That's a pet peeve of mine. And then X down center line, ride a really straight and square halt at G, and smile and show the judge that you rode an amazing test.
Yeah, I think this one's G is a little difficult because it's right up there. It's a little intimidating to get to. We see the horses, because you're going right up to the wall, like you see the horses kind of waver left and right. So you got to have your reins short. You got to have your legs on. So you're saying, no, we're just going to ride like you're going to ride right through to that judge, right? Because, normally you've done a lot of center lines. They're like, okay, do I go left? They're looking to you. Do I go left? Yeah. And then we see a little bit of this back and forth stuff happening. So you just have to teach the horse to be confident, to stay in between you two, your legs and your hands, and to stop on a dime at G. Salute. Yeah. Don't forget to salute. Everybody has finished these tests like, oh, I'm so glad it's over. Oh, I'm waving at mom on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Just salute first.
Then do what you want. I love it.
Then do whatever. Yeah.
I love it. Well, that was fun, Phil. Our second segment of our first level test 3, and keep listening. We will continue going through these tests as we go through the summer. So we hope you enjoy. And that was our total saddle fit tip of the week. Well, as always, everybody, we love your email and Facebook shout outs, and we've gotten a lot of fun calls and emails from everybody about our book club. When two spines align, don't forget.
Like it's your idea. Yeah, that's great.
Don't forget our book club. We're going to review our book the first week in July. So it's coming up. I am not going to lie, Phil. I'm taking mine. I'm heading on a little vacation. So I'm going to take mine with me and on the plane and read a little bit and be ready to rock and roll. So don't forget our book club, Two Spines Align. There's more info on our Facebook page and also on the Dressage Radio page. So we hope you enjoy it, and you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com. My email is reese@horseradionetwork.com. And I also have a new Instagram page for Maple Crest Farm. So go check it out.
Oh, man.
I know.
Well, the best way to find me is usually on Facebook, or my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a good show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
And as always, keep your heels down and your shoulders back. We are off next week, so have a good week. And don't forget our book club book. We look forward to going through it in July.